Bearcat Bounce Podcast and Live Nightcap presented by Danco Transmission and Auto Care, as well as Galactic Fried Chicken. It's a time where we need to all sit down and reminisce the first trip to Fog Allen Fieldhouse for the University of Cincinnati Bearcats in the Big 12. A game that, I tell you what, the comeback in the first half, 35-35 at halftime. The vibes were high for the Cincinnati faithful. A 74-69 final makes it a tough ending to what was a pretty doggone exciting game. Outside of tough shooting, outside of turnovers, it was a game where the crowd was involved. It was a Big 12 Big Monday. It was a ESPN on site. It was all eyes on the Cats versus the Kansas Jayhawks, but sadly, it was a game that came up as a loss. Chad Brendel, Keegan Nickoson here, as we are live from Kansas on site. Three of us in the same house in separate rooms. It's as if, mom and dad got mad at us, all went to our rooms, and now we have to talk about the tough game that happened earlier tonight. Guys, I got to bring you in. I'm going to do a little crossover here as well. A little gentleman. How are we?
It's been an awesome trip to this point. Unfortunately, didn't end with a victory like we had all desired. But that was a really cool place to watch a basketball game.
Yeah.
So that's what I got.
Keegan, how are we, brother?
I think all things considered, they put together a really good effort, especially after Kansas gets up to a 19-7 lead in the first half. When that happens, when you can say that's going to happen, and then you can say they're going to turn the ball over they're going to turn the ball over 10 times in the first half. I think a lot of people would be expecting to turn the TV off early and just head to bed. And that's what it was looking like for a little bit. But they fought back. They were resilient. They fought back even not being able to make shots. They hit some big threes. Dan Skillings hit a couple big threes in the first half. But they played a really tough Kansas team who was playing off a loss. And in that situation, it's never a recipe for success, especially when you're the newcomer playing against a blue blood. But I think you have to be satisfied with the effort tonight. There's some lingering issues that need to be fixed. But I think Wes Miller instills confidence in his guys, and it's kind of worked out a lot of the time so far this season.
Chad, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm good.
I think I was gonna say let's kind of just touch on some highlights, some highs before we dive into the tough side of the game. Obviously, the number one high we would have to mention would be the first half of Dan Skillings. His performance, kind of on live national TV, ESPN, Jay Billis, Josh Abbey on the call. It's going to be a game where a lot of people start to look and say, Dan Skillings Jr., this guy's a sophomore. This guy, is he next? The famous John Rothstein, buy stock now. If you haven't bought stock in Dan Skillings already, you're too late. Second half didn't quite go as well for Dan. He kind of mentioned that in the post game, said that kind of the flow of things, he forced it a little bit too much at the beginning of the second half, so he decided to kind of just roll through the team the rest of the way. Your guys' thoughts kind of Dan and the way he's been able to play, especially in the past two road games.
Well, give us your stat, Brent. You got the stat. Like, Dan's the one guy on the road that his scoring and his ability has traveled. Everybody else, the numbers speak for themselves on that front.
Yeah. It's a pretty eye-popping number when you look at it. The fact that Dan Skillings, who I don't think anyone would truly call him a great three-point shooter, but he's 8 for 14 in the 3 road games so far in the Big 12. And the rest of the team outside of Dan Skillings on the road in the Big 12, we're talking the win at BYU, the close loss at Baylor, and then tonight the loss at Kansas. The rest of the team is shooting 5 for 45, which is 11.1% from beyond the arc, and you're not going to win many games with that being the case.
Here's the frustrating part, Brent, is I'd feel a lot – I kind of almost feel a lot better about it if, like, you had guys taking bad threes or rush threes or, like, the offense wasn't working. But – and even tonight, guys got clean looks. Guys were open. Guys were in rhythm. And they're just missing. And some of that, the reality has to set in that this is not going to be a team that shoots 37% from three on the road. They have shown that to be true with regularity. But, I mean, it's, you're getting what you want. You're running what, you're accomplishing what each set desires, and the ball's not going in. And guess what? When you shoot like that, it's going to be difficult to beat any team in the Big 12. So it has to get somewhat better. Like, hell, right now, I'd take 29% from three in these road games, because it would probably mean 6, 9, 12 more points. As bad as they have shot it, I mean, the reality of tonight, Dan Skillings, 3 of 6 from 3. Day Thomas, 0 of 3. John Newman, 0 of 1. Vic Locken, 0 of 1. Seamus Lukosius, 0 of 6. Chisel James, 0 of 1. So 0 of 12 from everybody not named Dan. And 0 of 8 in the second half. It's not good enough. Like, this is what I've been trying to point to people when everybody was hung up on free throws. No, the offense has to play better. They have to execute better. They are moving the ball. They are getting layups. They are getting open three-pointers. They are getting rhythm looks inside the structure of the offense, and they're not converting. And until that pendulum swings and they get back on the right side of that, you're going to be in a fight for your life every game. Every game.
Yeah. Keegan?
I think kind of what you said about moving the ball well and they're getting open looks. It's been a staunch difference compared to what we saw against Xavier and Dayton, when a lot of the time the offense was stand still, vanilla, try to get it down to the post, see if something can happen. And I think it's kind of a result of Wes knowing who he has, and everyone's kind of meshing pretty well and being able to play well together. But it's just like you said, if you can't make shots, if you all mesh well together, it's not going to work. I think it could be a thing where water's going to find its level, and some of these good shooters aren't going to shoot this bad for a while. And Cincinnati's just in a tough spot right now in terms of trying to get that to convert. But Seamus can't go for 6. He's here to score the basketball, and he's here to make threes. It's one of the things which Brent continues to keep it up, but CJ is missed a lot right now. And I think that he is 2 or 3 of those threes. That's all you need from him in some of these big games, and that's the difference. And they're getting open shots, and there's shots that CJ would probably very easily make. But even since CJ isn't here, there's still shots they can make. John showed the ability to make the 3. Seamus has shown the ability, and Dan has shown the ability. So everyone disappearing, except for like one person each game, isn't sustainable. So they have so much depth, but the depth has to show up. Going back to Dan, I had old coworker Alec Lasley text me, and he said Skillings is a dog. And I said he's unreal and also one of the most frustrating players I've ever watched, because he'll make some awesome acrobatic plays and make big threes, and then he'll just hair on fire, drive into the lane, get the ball knocked out, and Kansas is going the other way. So he's a spark plug. I love bringing him off the bench. And then I also love kind of reading the flow of the game. Is he going to start the second half or not? I could see Wes kind of change it up every now and then, but he's been a spark plug. If he can bring it consistently and just be around 10 or 11, I think that would be huge. But like what we've seen, if CMOS is on, Dan's off. If Dan's on, CMOS is off. And I just don't think that's sustainable.
Yeah. I mean, how far away are we from just having people I guess it's hard to say. Obviously, everyone be on at the same time, but having one player be off and one player be on, we've kind of seen that's a recipe to lose. The Texas game, it was CMOS on, that was a loss. At Baylor, it was Dan on, CMOS off, that was a loss. At Oklahoma, CMOS on, Dan off, that was a loss. Tonight, Dan on, CMOS off, that was a loss. It's hard to continue to fathom where it's a one off, one on type situation. I don't know. It is probably one of the more tougher things for West to figure out as well, because like you mentioned, a bulk of those shots, those threes in the second half, especially in the beginning of the second half, where Kansas turned it over just numerous times in that first segment. Kind of felt like it was, the beginning of the Oklahoma game from Saturday, where, you got to take advantage of that. You're tied in the beginning of the second half. Kansas is kind of just giving you the ball numerous times. Some unforced errors and then some turnovers that were forced by Cincinnati as well. And you just aren't doing anything on the offensive side to maximize that. I missed open threes, 0 for 7 from 3 in the second half as a whole team. It's hard to win basketball games at any level in the year 2024 without good or even decent 3-point shooting. CJ obviously was brought in to be that marksman. But yeah, Chad.
I was going to say, how you can overcome some questionable 3-point shooting? Really good 2-point shooting. And they don't do that right now either.
Yeah.
Some might say they're in a funk offensively. Not me. Not me. I wouldn't say that. But some might say that offensively they're in a little bit of a funk.
Yeah. Yeah. I hate that word. I absolutely hate that word. But
I wasn't a fan of that word either.
No, not one bit. The main thing also.
Not bad for that reporter, whoever it was.
Yeah.
Poor kid from Kansas.
Wasn't me this time. I want that on the record. It was not me this time.
It was from the Topeka Sun Times, I think. His name was Brad Chundle.
Brad Chundle.
Pretty crazy.
That fucking guy causes problems, Brad Chundle. We talked about him last night.
Where does he get off? I mean,
I heard he had big Wi-Fi issues at the beginning of the game too, and he was like causing quite the stir on press row. It was like this Brad Chundle, man. He was something else.
Yeah, he basically hit me upside the head with his computer, asking me to fix it. I was like, I just got here, dude. I don't even know you.
The funniest thing is, I'm trying to fix it. I'm trying to Google and be like, what is this WASP or EAP? I'm like trying to Google it, and then this Brad Chundle says, Brent, stop. Where's Keegan? Where is Keegan? I'm like, I'm trying to help you out right now. We are missing the Rock Shock Jayhawk. Yeah. But it's frustrating because also you see how you do see the fight, and you see, I'm kind of to the point where I try to be optimistic all the time, but the moral win thing, trying to find the silver lining and whatnot. Yes, on the road at the Fog, you lose by this margin with the amount of poor shooting, the amount of turnovers, just really only having one player actually play well offensively. And that was really only for half, for the most part. And yet you're still within a 2-score game down the stretch. It's pretty unfathomable. And you do have to take a step back and say, wow, that is a sign of a good team. And you listen nationally right now, everyone's loving the Bearcats. They're saying that's the tournament team. That's a team, they're going to need to win some games Don't get me wrong. They're going to need to win some games, but that's the tournament team, which is why us who have been around the team, Chad, you going to practice, Keegan, you there at every single thing. It's just you see all the things there, but then you're like, okay, well, we can say all these things, but the wins need to start to come. They have to.
Yeah, I know you're quoting the Biancardi tweet, and I loved what he said, that Cincinnati went in there knowing that they could win that game. And I think that is a very, very rare trait in college basketball. Because I covered a team that went to Allen Fieldhouse last year, and they went in thinking they didn't have a chance. So that fact right there, that Cincinnati knew that they could win that game, is big for this team's confidence going forward. And I think it's why they've been in so many of these games as a newcomer that some could say they shouldn't be in against these veteran Big 12 teams.
Here's the impressive thing: equal parts impressive and equal parts frustrating, Keegan. There just seems to always be this point in the second half where they're down 7, 8, 9 points. Like, it feels like it happens like right around that 12-minute mark of every second half recently, and then they find a way to kind of claw and scratch and like make it a game and keep things interesting all the way down to the wire. But I mean, if you can just eliminate that little stretch and play even in that little stretch, you're in a much better position to, some would say, fight to the finish. I appreciate that they never give in, but like you're putting yourself in is it technical? Did I get a technical? Or did you get a timeout?
Call a timeout, 12 seconds left, down 7. They got a chance. Never give in.
Work on your out of bounds, your sideline out of bounds play. I mean, you know.
Yeah.
They just like, that's one of those things that I continue, especially the past 3 or 4 games, that I continue to notice is just like middle of the second half, they continue to find themselves in this hole. They do a phenomenal job digging out of it, but you know, it'd be great. It'd be great if you could avoid the scoring droughts that continue to find yourself in these holes, because I don't care how good your defense is at this level. Teams are going to score points. Like, you're not going to have a bunch of situations where, you know, you're constantly looking at the ability to go 4 minutes without a field goal and hope that the other team makes 1 field goal in that stretch. Like, the math doesn't math. And they continue to find themselves in this deficit that, you know, it's admirable that they fight their way out of it. I just would feel a lot better about how things are playing out if they didn't continuously, you know, have West call a timeout with 9 minutes left in the game, and you're down 7 or 8 or 9 or whatever it is.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly where the shooting comes in, because it's not that hard to get a 4-0 run. Like, you're expected to get 4 runs. It's what UC did today multiple times, like what you said, to claw back in and make it close. Then you have to hit a 3 and make it a 7-0 run, or like what Kansas did at the beginning of the game, go on a run to take a 10-2 lead. And that's what we haven't seen from this team lately, which is why all these games have been so tough, especially against Oklahoma. I don't – go ahead.
We are seeing those 7-0 runs. It's just that they're down 9 when it happens. Like, a 7-0 run is but they got back in the game, being my point. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, when they do hit the little burst, like, okay, but you're down 9 at that point. Like, you went on a 9-2 run, down 9. Now you're still down 2. And then the other team makes a 3. And guess what? You did all that fighting, and now they're back up 5.
Yes.
Yeah, Kansas went up.
Saying that.
Yeah, Kansas went up by 5 with 13:26 left. It was within 3 before that. And then the rest of the game, Cincinnati got it to within 4 once. But they had never been able to put anything together to try to cut it to 2. So after the 14:42 mark, or after the 13:26 mark, it was a 4 or 5 point game. And that's when you need a 3 to cut it to 1. So that's what's the most frustrating part. It's
but I'm
just
talking about
basic basketball math.
At 14:42, it was a 2-point game.
Yeah.
KJ Adams makes a layup. McCullough makes a 3. It's 7. And Wes has to call a timeout. 13:55 left, down 7. And then it goes back and forth. 5, 7, 8, 6, 8, 7, 6. And like that's just that constant feeling. You know, with 7:11 left, they're down 7. 5:52 left, down 7. 3:36 left, down 8. 2:58 left, down 9. 2:02 left, down 10. Like you're constantly digging out of a hole. And that's where these offensive droughts are killing them, because once you're in these games against, especially Kansas, Baylor, Houston, who we'll see twice coming up, against the top of the league, if you get down 7 in the second half, it's a big hill to climb, brother.
Yeah, because Dan did it against Baylor in the second half, did it in the first half tonight against Kansas, where he goes on those personal runs. You do need some other people chipping in. And yes, everyone did chip in here and there, but gosh, I mean, we keep harping on just making shots from the perimeter, but truly, that is just it's such an important piece to everything. I feel like it'll come, and obviously there's a player who's injured right now who when he comes back, that'll be big. But I mean, you look at 3 more made threes is what Kansas had, which is not a crazy, mind-boggling stat, but that's 9 points. You lost the game by 5. And yes, everything is different when it comes to the flow of the game and, after a made shot and whatnot, but those things just add up. And it like Keegan was saying, it's simple math. We'll give shouts to Trevor, Chad. You got to pull it up.
Shouts to Trevor. Props to you guys for going live so late. Much love from your favorite UC intern. What's going on, Trevor? Thank you, brother. What are you doing up so late, Trevor? That's what I want to know.
Jazzed up after that game, man.
Transcribing.
Let's talk about Paul Gallen real fast. That place is unique. It's awesome.
As advertised.
It is an old school feel, and I mean that in the best way possible, because it's like, their fan base, everyone is just kind of in a rhythm together. Everyone's kind of cheering the same cheers together. They were loud at times, very loud at times. They went up big, and I feel like it kind of, they didn't have to be loud for a while. Since they came back, obviously, they got loud again. The under 4, with the final media timeout, awesome little, the hum song from Wolf of Wall Street, get you going, get the crowd going, get the
Rob Riggle going. Let's go, Rob Riggle.
Yeah, Rob Riggle. Shouts.
I never knew people got that excited about Rob Riggle.
I tell you what, 21 Jump Street is one of the funniest movies out there that gets no love.
I like Rob Riggle. I was unaware that Rob Riggle had the juice to get people that worked up. That's all. I mean,
when he's like putting Jonah Hill's tongue back in his mouth.
Sir, I was unaware of your ability. I'm putting some respect on Rob Riggle's name. I was unaware that you had those powers, Rob Riggle.
Well, there was no Pat Mahomes or Travis Kelce, so they had to get someone up. I mean,
no. They had an entire produced segment on the video board with Rob Riggle. Somebody in a creative meeting in the Kansas athletic department said, you know what we need at the under 4 timeout? We need Rob Riggle to blow
What is a
roof off
Kansas fan?
mother.
It'd be like if we got Nick Lachey to do a little something for us.
Right.
Chad's already brought that up.
You know?
Keegan was like, if Rob Riggle did this for UC, you would be fired up. And I was like, if Nick Lachey did this, I would be like, it's Nick Lachey.
Hey, man. It would be the hardest thing he'd ever have to do, right? Please tell me that's the 98 Degrees song. Please tell me it's a 98 Degrees song. I don't know if it is or not, but see you later, Chad. But yeah, they had a they had like an intro kind of video that seems like they've probably been playing it since like the late 90s with like Star Wars and the Looney Tunes and like all that. Like it just was very nostalgic. Obviously a lot of things have happened in those Howard Halls. And I mean, you're playing against one of the greatest college basketball coaches of all time. And Bill Self had nothing but nice things to say about Cincinnati. Obviously, unless you get a coach really angry and they're over on the West Coast, it's going to mostly be nice things to say about the opponent.
Or if you do a horns down.
Or if you do a horns down, yes. Especially if you're a directional school out of Florida heading to that school in Texas for the first time. But it just seems as if they've got everything rolling. And when you win as much as they do, you kind of get that kind of culty, kind of just like vibes. And that's what it felt like. It felt awesome. It was
they only did the rock chalk thing like once or twice. I wanted more of that.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
I think they do it when probably it's a very close game and down the stretch. I don't know. It was, let's be honest, it was a pretty ugly game, but it was one.
I mean, I remember playing NCAA college basketball, and like that was like you just hear it like rock chalk, like I wanted more of the rock chalk. We got it a couple times, but I didn't think we got the full complement of rock chalk Jayhawk KU.
Right. Yeah, I think it was there.
It was loud.
But
that place is the noise has nowhere to go in that field house. Here's what I'll give them credit for. They efficiently use every inch of space in that place.
Yep.
And it is loud when they get loud in there.
It's so Fifth Third Arena is obviously it's state of the art. It is in a high league when it comes to just that modernized, beautiful, aesthetically pleasing, just updated, renovated arenas. When it comes to this, it's refreshing to have, and I love when the Fifth Third has the DJs and whatnot, but here there's not much music pumping in. It's a lot of band music. It's a lot of just kind of self-made sounds, and it's big time college basketball is what it is. And I brought up Bill Self, and I want to mention something that he said in his presser was, and we've heard it. Scott Drew said it. Jamie Dixon said it. It's the fact that they've mentioned over and over again that Cincinnati is one of the best rebounding teams in the country. Obviously, a couple of tough games recently on the rebounding side of things, against Oklahoma. TCU also out rebounded the Bearcats, but a 40-29 advantage on the boards. Now the Jayhawks aren't going to be a world beater when it comes to rebounding, but when you have that and you have defense, that are two things that you can kind of hang your hat on, you're going to hang in a lot of games. We watched that for 26 straight years in Cincinnati basketball. So that's another positive thing that you can kind of really gather from tonight's game.
Yeah, it masks so many deficiencies because they won 21-12 on the boards in the first half, and they had 10 turnovers, and they went in tied. So that's a massive reason why they were able to be in the game at half and have a chance. They took the lead, and then you have a chance to take the lead more in the second half and eventually lead to a win. But it was a 19-17 differential in the second half. Kansas is kind of able to put a dent in it. But this is this team's identity, and I think that's been formed now. They've lost on the boards twice, and it was to TCU and to Oklahoma. And it's like you just said, you have a chance to win if you control the boards. So they have to control the boards first and then go from there.
Wait, Keegan, you're telling me the identity of the Cincinnati Bearcats is defense and rebounding?
I said rebounding specifically.
I know,
rebounding.
But also defense. They have been really, really good defensively through 6 Big 12 games against 6 top 25 teams.
And I'll ask this, being this is my first 4-year watching since I went to IU and went to Danville and played baseball and couldn't really watch. Has this been a defensive team the past 2 years? Like, is that what they've hung their hat on?
They got better last year as the season went on. But they didn't really have the horses. Like Dave DeJulius, Dave played his ass off to max out defensively, but he's nowhere close. When you watch Day, like how hard Day works to deny ball screens and to ice ball screens and to keep point guards from getting where they want to go on the floor.
Turned over DeJuan Harris 5 times. That's a feat that's tough to do. That's a national championship winning point guard. Turned him over 5 times. He had 8 assists, but still he turned him over 5 times.
Yeah, and I want to give flowers to Day because I mean everyone is ready to ship him back to JUCO, and he had 1 turnover tonight, and he's been a key piece
Not everyone.
Careful with your semantics, Keegan. You're late on Colonial Drive. Be careful with your semantics. But
Chad was a Day. Chad vouched for Day. I understood why Day was starting. Chad knew why he was starting and that he should be starting down the road. But he surprised me with how he's been able to bounce back. And that's nothing but confidence and maturity. And I think what Wes said after the game, just saying they have the right guys. He's not surprised when they're good. He's not surprised when they're struggled. He's going with it.
He definitely doesn't think anyone is in a funk.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Don't even
use that word around him.
I'm going to bring back your original question. Like last year as well, you had like secondary defenders like Jeremiah Davenport gave his heart to UC. Definitely was one to get everyone hyped up and things, but he had a lot of lapses defensively. You kind of have those secondary defenders that were, kind of they tried hard, but they certainly weren't the John Newmans of the world, not the Josh Reeds who played extremely physical in the first half. And I think that kind of led to putting Kevin McCullough in a bit of a funk. He was finished 5 of 17 or 5 of 14 from the field. It was 5 of 17 shooting was Kevin McCullough. That's throwing a player off. Sure, he finished with 20 points. A lot of this coming from the free throw line, but that's throwing a player off that normally just has a good pulse and a good feel for the game. And then you add in the shot blocking ability of Aziz, or just the ability to scare people going into the post. And this is definitely a whole different level of defense compared to last year. That, of course, 2 years ago was just a hodgepodge thrown together, team where they had pieces, but it was never fully meshed the way that things were hoped to. But this is definitely they're 19th in defensive efficiency in the country. They just really held Kansas to a scenario where you should beat them. You should beat Kansas.
Shall we talk about Hunter Dickinson tonight?
Yeah, I was about to say you hold Hunter Dickinson to 0.
Let's get him on the show. For the most part, he'll come on the show. Let's get him on the show.
He'll come on.
Yeah, probably would.
Let me text my connection. See if we can get him on. No. But yeah, I mean, you're throwing Hunter Dickinson off his game. You're throwing. It was a game where obviously you make some shots. You have to make shots to win a tough game on the road. Have to at least have a. That's the most mind-boggling and honestly the most frustrating part of it for me is that you did so much right. You fought your ass off, and still, just because you missed some shots, it was that's why you couldn't get over that hump and pulling in a win. So
how about McCullough? He gets 20, but it takes him 17 shots. He was 5 of 17 from the floor. Like they made him.
You know what?
Work.
That's so good to say that you repeat. That's such a good stat that you had to repeat it. I like it.
I mean, 9 of 24 from the floor combined for McCullough and Dickinson.
Yeah.
9 of 24.
Yeah.
Like defensively, you drop. Like, look, if somebody else gets hot, if a guy like Furphy goes 7 of 8 and 3 of 4 from 3, like you tip your cap. Like that kid's really good. He's getting exponentially better really fast.
Turning into Grady Dick right in front of our eyes.
I mean, Bill Self probably going to have to pull the reins back on him a little bit so that he's back next year and they have a star because he will be a star next year if he's at Kansas again.
Yeah. Furphy showed it all tonight. And the reason why I feel like he was so on was because he had some early opportunities. It was a failed defensive rebound by Cincinnati. Sorry, that led to an offensive rebound and a kick out for Furphy's 3. It was a turnover that led to a fast break opportunity for Furphy. You get 5 points in the first 4 minutes, and you're considered like a role player. You're going to kind of feel.
Oh, he was a cherry picking son of a gun, boy. As soon as Kansas got the ball on a run out, he was at the rim waiting for a layup.
Yes, he was.
Weak side recognition. Like, the ball got turned over here. Go. Red team, go. Layup.
Man. Tonight wouldn't sting as much as it does if you get one of the 3 of Oklahoma, Texas, and Baylor. That's what makes tonight sting even more because you're right there.
Look.
Yes.
Here's the deal.
Right. No, I agree.
The past is the past.
Yeah.
You have your 2 most important games of the season starting Saturday. Because you have a chance.
Must win of a game at this point of the season that you can say.
2.
Yeah.
2 and 4 in these first 6. You were in every game. I think this was 5. So you're still +2 on the season. You're 2 and 4 and you're +2. UCF and West Virginia, you have to get level. You have to get to 4 and 4. You cannot be 3 and 5 coming out of this 2-game stretch because again, the math stops mathing at that point. Getting 6 more wins to get to 9. You got 2 more with Houston. You got Texas Tech. It gets really difficult if you don't get it done in these next 2 games to get to 4 and 4, get to level, and then find a way to go 5 and 5 over the last 10. If you've got to go 6 and 4, where do the 6 come? It just gets hard at that point. It's hard. It's like going to Lubbock. It's hard.
Well, I've heard that too many times on this trip.
Well, it's actually going to come. It's going to come to fruition here very soon. Trip to Lubbock's coming up.
As of right now, I think you're right, Top G. After UCF and West Virginia, right on. There's a couple that are on but 5 quad 1 games in a row. You have to win. Have to.
West Virginia could be a quad 1. Depending on what they do, 1 through 75 on the road.
I mean, they're
I could
down
see
under 100 right now.
They're 130 right now, or one.
Yeah, they got a long way to go to be quad one, Geeks.
I wonder who they're playing. Yeah, I don't. It's not a good matchup to try to get your shooting back on track when you're playing UCF.
But they're not good away from home.
Defensively,
They're still good defensively, but their offense is dreadful away from home. You have to win that game. You have to win that game.
Unless you're playing at Austin, Texas. Keegan, do you agree? Obviously the cliche must wins, the cliche this and that, but I mean Saturday is like it's the most gotta freaking win this, because I mean you can kind of tell after each tough loss recently, and you know, yet again, I cannot stress national TV, ESPN, Jay Billis, John Shabby. You got Seth Greenberg back in the studio hyping up the Bearcats. You got all of those things falling in line. Cincinnati at one point, when they were down, I think 9 with like 6 minutes to go, 5 minutes to go, and then they chipped away at it. That could have easily been a chance for Kansas to stretch it out. They went by 14 to 17. And then all of a sudden everyone's talking about Kansas has fixed it. Kansas has figured out how they're going to be a really good team. Now instead everyone's still talking about the Bearcats, but you can't start winning. And that's why this Saturday just feels so doggone important.
Yeah, you can't lose games you're supposed to win. I think that's basically where I think you could lose to UCF even if you had stolen it against Oklahoma, because it's such a confidence killer, and you can't have low confidence in this and the Big 12. Losing to UCF now ruins everything, because you're finishing these games saying, okay, we were in it. We're not supposed to be this good right now. We're playing these teams who've been in the Big 12. We've proven we belong. Then you go and lose to UCF at home, and then you're thinking, oh, maybe we stole a game against TCU that we weren't supposed to win, and then maybe we stole a game at BYU. Actually, they didn't steal a game. They just kind of kicked BYU's ass a little bit, so that's not relevant. But
Keegan, here's the bigger problem. If you don't win Saturday, you've lost 3 home games. That's insurmountable in this league. If you're going to be 500
in a row,
yeah,
which
you're
is officially
1-3 at home.
Yeah,
1-3 at home would be a nightmare scenario.
Yeah, especially because home games.
This is the look I get in the rearview mirror from the back seat.
Yeah, basically, it's terrifying.
You want to do everything in your power to avoid quad 3 and quad 4 losses. A West Virginia home loss, a UCF home loss, those slide immediately, and Oklahoma State as well. Those immediately slide into the quad 3, quad 4 territory. So it's pinnacle.
They got through the first 6 with a pulse. They're still alive. They're not dead. They didn't go 1-5. They didn't go 0-6. It probably should have been 3-3. It even could have been 4-2. But they got through with a pulse.
Yeah.
But you have to follow it up with wins against West Virginia and Central Florida. You have to. You have to.
Could be 1-5 if the ball didn't tip off Micah Peavy's hand there late against TCU. So they were fortunate to win that game.
5-1.
Okay, Scott Satterfield. that's
oh, dog. That is a rabbit hole we don't want to go down in. Like, look at how good our rebounding numbers are. Look at how good our defensive numbers are. Look how good sometimes our bench scoring is. Like, no, we're not.
No, I love, but Terry said it at the radio show, and I love Wes's response because it's the opposite of what we heard all fall. Terry was like, "You're so close to me, 5-1, 4-2," and then Wes is like, we could be 1-5 right now. So I'm happy. Yeah, or 0-6. So I'm not going to complain with a big win over TCU and say we need more. But yeah, so that's it's yeah. To quote Tom Allen,
wow,
you can tell how late it.
I will get out of here. Are you trying to get kicked out? Are you trying to go to bed? Is that what's happening right now?
We're getting a Tom Allen quote at 1:17 local time here in Kansas.
It's the most important game because it's the next one.
That's Leo, baby. Leo.
I'm so tired.
All right. We've touched on most everything. Fire Keegan. Josh, have you been talking to my daughter?
I do want to say, I wanted to say this earlier when we were talking about the shooting. Wes did say after the game, he said Kansas switches a lot. They're a top 5 team in the country. They're a good team. They're going to be tough to score on. And then Bill Self got to the podium and said, yeah, I don't think our 3-point defense was great, and I think we got pretty lucky. Them not making a 3 was pretty crucial to us winning that game in the second half.
Right.
Bill Self said, Bill Self said, them motherfuckers missed a lot of good-looking threes. That's what Bill Self said.
That's literally what he said. Just in nicer words. He's like, yeah, they sucked from 3, and that's why
we're going to have Easter spasms the amount of times he clenched, seeing every open 3 go up. Keegan right there. Chad, what were you about to say?
I was about to say we got to pay a couple bills. So www.galacticfriedchicken.com. Go to the website. They'll deliver to your house pretty much anywhere inside the 275 loop, or go down to Dayton, Kentucky, tell them to pump it up. Save yourself 15% off of the Galactic goodness. It is out of this world. And then Brent would say about Danco transmission,
dog, them roads gonna be icy tomorrow. So if you do skedaddle and slide a little bit, say you do roll into a curb, say you might clip a little bit of a bush, say, hey, you know what? I need to get myself an oil change. You're gonna head over to Danco Transmission and Auto Care. Danco Joe will hook you up. Tell them I sent you. Tell Chad I sent you.
Yes, if you slide into a curb and need an oil change,
all of the above. $10 off your next oil change, 10% off your next fixing. Danco Joe will hook you up. He'll get it going. You know what? Mention CJ Frederick. See what happens. Danco Joe will hook you up.
And we're also going to timestamp the whole show.
Timestamp.
Brought to you by Quick Paper Supply, your local and family-owned restaurant supply company for all your non-food products. Quick Paper services over 150 restaurants with weekly low minimum next day deliveries. They provide a wide range of food service products from to-go containers, cups, custom printed products, eco-friendly, and much more. They also have cleaning and restroom supplies for all your janitorial needs. Call Nick 513-470-2029 and reference Bearcats for 20% off your first month of purchases. And then, you know what I'm going to make a pitch right now, even though he's not here. You know what might become part of the Bearcat Journal family coming soon?
What's that now?
Maybe a little New Riff Distillery. We opened the BCJ bottle.
All right now.
Of New Riff Distillery. Keegan's soft, so he didn't have any.
No, Keegan Keegan finished his already. He's that hard dude down there now.
Yeah, maybe, potentially like New Riffin' with Royer. Brought to you by New Riff. But I tell you what, the malted rye, the Bearcat Journal bottle, Brent will tell you, very good.
Smooth. That's
very
smooth
good.
Sipping. That's smooth sipping.
Delicious. All right.
All right.
It's late as hell. You got to drive across
the
country.
Yeah, I know. Nothing else, guys?
I got nothing. Keegs?
Bearcats stay at 33 in Ken Palm. Bearcats cover the spread. Bearcats head to Fog Out on the Fieldhouse. Bearcats intimidated. They dominated on the boards. And now Bearcat Journal is going to celebrate it. Just being together and seeing a team that is great. Seeing a team that's heading in the right direction. Seeing a team that's got as much of a must-win as possible coming up this Saturday night. That's right. It's a night game. Head to Fifth Third Arena. Just run there. Flock there. Keegan, what time's tip-off? 8 p.m., right?
8 p.m.
Yes, 7. 8?
Oh, 7.
Okay.
Maybe 7. That's called filibustering. That's
Hold
called
on.
filibustering.
No, it's
7 p.m.
2
tip.
seconds.
That's Bob.
6
what time
7
p.m.
it is.
p.m. tip.
Six.
No, it's
6.
7. No, it's
6
7.
p.m. tip. Saturday, January 27th. It's 6.
I'm looking at 7 p.m. UCF.
6 p.m.
You're saying 6 because we're in Kansas right now.
Yeah, adjust.
Yeah, you're right.
You're a dumbass.
7 p.m. tip, UCF. Our friends from down in Florida, the Knights of Gold, coming to Fifth Third Arena. Massive game. Wear white. Bearcats need all the support, baby. Let's get it fired up. But it's been fun, guys. It's been a fun trip. Got a long ride home tomorrow. We've got a full bourbon bottle we got to find the bottom of. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. Shouts to
The
Dan
longest
Cook
outro.
Shouts to Galactic Fried Chicken. Shouts to Quick Paper Supply for all of their timestamps. And of course, as always, shouts to my guys, my pals, Chad Brendel, Keegan Nickoson, Aaron Smith, Ryan Royer. I am Brent Young. Yet again, another fantastic BBP nightcap presented by all of those people that I said right here on BearcatJournal.com.